I think it is time for us to get started. Second. All right, welcome everybody. Just to let everybody know, simultaneous interpretation is being provided. English speakers may need to select English as their language. If you are accessing Zoom from your computer, click the globe icon located at the bottom of the screen. Choose English. And if you are accessing Zoom from a smartphone, you will click on the three dots at the bottom. It stands for more. On the bottom right side of your screen, choose language interpretation, choose English, press done on the top right side of your screen. Go
La
ahead, Ryan.
La interpretación simultánea al español está disponible. Los hispanohablantes deben seleccionar su idioma. Al ingresar a Zoom por una computadora, haga clic en el símbolo del globo terráqueo en la parte inferior de la pantalla, seleccionando español, apagando el audio original para solo escuchar una voz. Si ingresa a Zoom a través de un teléfono inteligente, haga clic en los tres puntos por encima de la palabra More o más en la parte inferior derecha de la pantalla. Seleccione Interpretación, el español y haga clic en Done o Finalizar arriba y de al lado de la pantalla. El servicio de interpretación comenzará en unos instantes. Muchas gracias.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. So just to let everybody know, ASL interpretation is not available today, but we do offer captions for this meeting. To enable or disable captions, click the More button and choose Caption Choice. Okay, next slide, please. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Adelina Paez. I am an air pollution specialist and regional liaison for the Clean Transportation Outreach section here at CARB. My work is focused on light duty outreach. I am also a liaison for planning and capacity grants and tribal coordinator for the Mobile Source Control Division. I will be facilitating the evening community meetings in effort to help with the coordination of the funding plan, to share program updates, and coordinate presentations on topics of public interest. That means you. So if you guys have any ideas, please let us know. We'd love to hear about them. I would also like to take a minute to acknowledge our entire team of folks that make the evening community meetings and work groups happen, make them run smoothly and successfully. Thank you to everyone who has played a role. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Before we get going, let's do some housekeeping. There are a few items we do have to address. Next slide, please. All right, let's go. These meetings are about community and sharing information. Our meeting agreements are here to alleviate challenges and are as follows. Be respectful. Let's be kind and create a comfortable space for everyone to share their thoughts and experiences. Take space and/or make space. If you have a lot to say, great. We encourage you to ask questions, but please be mindful and leave room for others to participate as well. If you do have like a ton more questions, we always have plenty of options for you to leave emails or contact information at the end of the meeting and throughout. Listen to understand. Listen without judgment or jumping to conclusions. Lastly, consider equity. We all aim to develop solutions with fairness and equality in mind. People from all over California are here to work together. These diverse perspectives can be helpful for us to overcome barriers. And with these agreements, let's continue. Next slide, please. Okay, so just a little bit of purpose and background about our evening community meetings. Our annual funding plan development process involves daytime public workshops and work group meetings on various incentive projects. However, we do understand that community members face unique challenges attending these meetings compared to representatives from industry, government, and non-government organizations. So CARB continues to host monthly evening community meetings to make it easier for members to engage with us. Our goal for these meetings are to provide a space for community voices and priorities, brainstorm solutions for clean transportation needs, highlight key funding plan information, and foster ongoing communication between staff and community. Next slide. All right, so for today's agenda, we have an overview of the amendments to California's Clean Car Regulation, and we'll end the segment with a Q&A. We will follow that with a quick 5-minute break and return for the overview of an overview of the fiscal year 2024-25 draft funding plan and clean transportation incentives and upcoming funding opportunities. We will have a Q&A after each subtopic. I will now hand things over to Michael for any questions or comments so far. Next slide.
Okay, we will now open the floor for questions and comments about this part of the presentation. To ask a question or make a comment, on Zoom desktop, click Raise Hand in the upper under the Participants tab. On Zoom mobile, tap Raised Hand in the More tab. By phone, press 2 to raise your hand. You can also email questions to the Clean Transportation Incentives at arb.ca.gov. This is an email address that will be posted in the chat. Please include your name and affiliation, if any, with your question. Once your line is open, please unmute. State your name and affiliation, if any, before speaking. If you're emailing, or our email monitor will notify us of your question. I'll give it another minute or two here. I don't see any raised hands so far, and
Okay.
I don't see any emails that have come in from the monitor.
Okay, we usually don't. I just like to give them a quick minute in case they're, oh, I see one.
Victor.
I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you, Victor. Go ahead.
All right, my name is Victor Bobier. I don't represent anyone but myself, although anyone that gets SSI and Social Security like I do, we could use some help. If you have an EV already, which I do, and installing I have an EV SE cable, but I don't really have the income for a while to fully install it. It's partially installed. It's plugged into a 120 volt outlet, and as such, my car is charging at level 1 speeds and no faster. $1,331.81 only goes so far. And they've made sure that unless you get your car through state of California, you can't get any help with the charging ability. Basically, you're on your own. Can someone fix that, please? That's it.
Thank you, Victor. We'll go ahead and see if one of our team can go ahead and address that.
Hi, Victor. This is Nick Nerberts. I'm a manager in the Clean Transportation Outreach section at CARB. That's a really great point and a great question. And I think the answer can depend on where you live. So I'm happy to work offline with you to try to help your situation out. I know your comment and your question is applies more broadly to not just yourself, but anybody in your position. So I appreciate that too. But in order to try to help you out, you can please email the email address that you can see on the screen on the slide here, or hopefully that was dropped in the chat too, and we can follow up to help you out. But certainly appreciate your comment, and thank you very much.
Nick, can I just add one little thing?
Yeah, go for it.
Victor, I will reach out to you too via email, or maybe I can give you a call and we can talk a little bit. We may have some other options, not through this agency, but maybe with the CEC or something. But I'd like to learn a little bit more about you. So I will reach out. Is that okay with you?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Go ahead, Michael.
All right. Do we have any other questions or comments?
Me, no.
To the group. Okay, let's go ahead and move forward. Next slide.
Here I am. Hi.
All right, next up is amendments to California's Clean Car Regulation. Go ahead, Lisa.
Thanks, Adelina. And thanks, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the meeting tonight. Thanks for joining us. My name is Lisa Kilidakis. I work here at CARB on regulations aimed at reducing pollution from light-duty cars and trucks, which are called our Advanced Clean Cars program. We are working on amendments to these regulations, and we'd like to hear your priorities and what is important to you as we develop our proposal. We did join this meeting back in May, so we're happy to kind of come back and let you know what we've heard and get some more feedback from you. So just quickly, next slide. Here's an overview of what I'll be going over tonight. First, I'll describe the impacts of climate change and identify the biggest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions, which cause climate change. Next, I will discuss our requirements to reduce pollution from cars and our plans for additional reductions. I will then introduce the concept of a new consumer-focused window sticker that would help new car buyers compare electric vehicles. As I provide more information about our new greenhouse gas regulations and the new consumer window sticker, we'll do some polls to hear more from you. Your input will help inform how we develop our regulations. I'll also share what we've heard so far at community input sessions, and then finally, I'll end with some information on how you can stay involved and continue to provide input. So next slide, please. So in California, we are seeing record-setting wildfires, extreme heat, extended droughts, and worsening air quality, while people around the world face similar extreme weather and environmental challenges. And the impacts of these disasters continue to fall most heavily on low-income communities already burdened by environmental pollution. As an agency focused on public health, it's vital for us to take action to cut greenhouse gas pollution from every possible source. Next slide, please. Since passenger cars and trucks and the fuels they use are responsible for over half of California's greenhouse gas and smog-forming pollution, it's crucial that we continue to tackle these emissions. Next slide. We have several strategies to do this. We have strong regulatory programs that set minimum requirements for automakers to control pollution from the vehicles they build and sell. But we know that regulations are not enough to reach our clean air and climate goals, especially when we want to ensure that all California communities have access to clean vehicles. This is why we also provide incentives that help bring down the cost of these vehicles. This plays a big role in helping bring cleaner technologies to communities that need them. We also work closely with many partners like other state agencies and nonprofit organizations to help achieve our goals to advance cleaner technologies and reduce transportation emissions. Next slide, please. So today I'll focus on how we address pollution through our regulations. California is the only state that can set its own vehicle emission standards that are stronger than the federal government. This is because of California's poor air quality compared to the rest of the United States. Our clean car standards have been around since 1968 and have been updated over time. The most recent update was the Advanced Clean Cars 2 regulations approved by our board in August of 2022. So Advanced Clean Cars 2 includes several regulations in one package. It includes the zero-emission vehicle regulation that requires an increasing percentage of new vehicle sales meet a zero-emission vehicle standard, ramping up to 100% by the model year 2035. Cars that meet the standard include battery electric, plug-in hybrid electric, and hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicles. It also includes the zero-emission vehicle assurance measures because the quality of these vehicles will be key to a growing market. The ZEV assurance measures are designed to give drivers confidence when buying a new or used zero-emission vehicle or SUV or pickup truck, and include things like meaningful battery warranties and information for drivers about the health of their car's battery. In 2022, we also updated the low-emission vehicle, smog-forming, air pollution standards. This continues to clean up conventional gas cars to reduce exposure to vehicle pollution. And although the zero-emission vehicle regulation part of Advanced Clean Cars 2 will dramatically reduce greenhouse gas emissions, it does not affect those emissions from the gasoline vehicles that will still be sold now and in 2035 and beyond. They'll really be the last gas cars on our roads. So we address these cars through a separate regulation, the greenhouse gas regulation, which was not part of the 2022 Advanced Clean Cars 2 regulation. And that is why we're here today, because we're proposing amendments to the regulation that includes the greenhouse gas standards. So next slide, please. So as we develop these amendments, we have several priorities and things we need to keep in mind. First, we expect the Advanced Clean Cars 2 zero-emission vehicle rule to really provide significant greenhouse gas emission reductions, but we are not banning gas cars altogether. So new gas cars will still be sold between now and 2035 and will operate well into the future. The federal government has recently taken encouraging action to clean up vehicles, but we also want to make sure that we have strong requirements in California to protect climate benefits and public health, no matter the political situation at the federal level. And as we think through what level of reductions to require, we need to strike the right balance between cleaning up gasoline cars while staying focused on zero-emission vehicles. These rules are addressing the last gas cars that will be sold in California, as I mentioned before. So we do this all while considering how will this impact the cost of buying and driving new and used cars in California. Technologies that reduce greenhouse gas emissions can also help reduce how much you spend on fuel. It might mean you have to spend more upfront for a car, but you could save money over time. So this next slide provides an example of how this could play out for somebody buying a new car. Oh, sorry, next slide, thanks. Here you can see a gasoline version of a Toyota Corolla that costs about $22,050. And then the hybrid, conventional hybrid version, which costs about $23,500. But if you look at refueling this with gasoline that costs $4 a gallon, the hybrid version would save you or save somebody about $500 a year on fuel. So over time, this more expensive hybrid would save you over time. So as we think about maybe someone spending a little more upfront but saving money over time, we have a couple polling questions. So we'd like to get your kind of thoughts and a sense of your priorities when it comes to these new standards we're looking at. So let's launch the first poll. So our first poll question, I'll just wait till it comes up. So our first poll question is, when you're buying a new car, do you consider the fuel costs? So do you consider the fuel costs when buying a new or used car? Yes, no, or you're not really sure. And I think we'll just give folks a few minutes, or I mean, a few seconds, let's say, or so to answer the poll. It would be great if you could let us know your thoughts.
I can see it live, so I'll end the poll when I stop seeing.
Okay, 'cause, yeah, I'm like, I don't see anything happening. Thanks,
Okay.
Evelyn.
Okay, so 80% or
Oh,
82%
great, thank
yes,
you.
15% no, and 3% not sure.
So, okay, so if you end the poll, can you share the results, or you're just sharing verbally? That's great. Okay. Yeah. Oh, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for all your responses. Appreciate that. Okay, so now we have another question. We have 3 questions here. So that was number 1. The second one, would you consider buying a higher priced car if it would save you money on fuel every month? So I think sorry, I kind of jumped the gun there. That's okay.
Sorry.
Let people kind of think about that one. So would you buy a higher priced car if it would save you money every month on fuel? Yes, no, or not sure.
Okay, people have stopped, so I'm just going to end it and share
Okay.
results.
Thanks. Yes, about 50% yes, that's great. And then no and not sure kind of split. I imagine without knowing how much more that car would cost, it's kind of hard to answer. But I think this gives us a sense of like, is it, is that important to you? And then the last question, again, would you pay, and maybe I'll wait for, thanks, Adelina. Would you pay a little more for a car knowing that the car pollutes less? Yes, no, and not sure.
Okay. Oh, someone changed their mind.
Drum roll.
There we go.
Oh, 70% yes, 20% no, and then 10% not sure. Great. Well, thanks so much for doing the poll. We have one more set of questions after the next topic. So thanks for giving us your thoughts on that. So the next slide, please. The next topic I'll be talking about is our of shifting to another piece of the amendments that we believe will help consumers shopping for electric vehicles. So as the sales of new vehicles increase to 100% zero-emission technologies by 2035, we really need to help consumers as they shop and compare both new and used electric vehicles. So if you've ever shopped for a new car, you probably or may have seen what we call the US EPA fuel economy sticker, or looked up information about a car online. And we're used to seeing miles per gallon or MPG and other information presented on a label when we shop for a gasoline-powered car. But what about electric vehicles that don't run on gasoline? What information is important for consumers looking for electric vehicles? So we think that is why we're developing a new consumer-facing window sticker to help new car buyers looking at electric vehicles. So as you can see from this slide, this new window sticker would be visible on the window of new cars, and then we imagine and the information would be available online as these vehicles enter the used car market. So the next slide, please, would be great. So this slide really shows in more detail the information that we are looking at providing on a consumer-facing window sticker. So we want to make sure the information on this new window sticker is helpful to everyone as they look for the driving range, maybe the charging speed, warranty information. There'd also be a QR code on the window sticker that would point folks to the driveclean.ca.gov website that would have additional information, maybe help people understand what's on this window sticker. So as we continue to keep the sticker up so that you can look at it more closely, we just have a few polling questions that we'd like to run through with you all, again, to get your thoughts. So I'll,
Pulling them up. All right, I just launched the first question.
Thanks. So the first question, when looking at the sticker or the window sticker, would these driving range numbers be helpful if you were looking to buy an electric vehicle? Yes, no, not sure.
Give it a few more seconds because there are still people answering. Okay, ending poll now. Sharing results.
Great. Okay. So 83% of you said yes, this would be helpful. 10% said no, and then 7% not sure. So that sounds good. Thank you so much for that input on that question. The next question is
okay, launched.
So thank you, Adelina. The next question, does the term combined driving range in that driving range column, does it make sense to you? And just looking at yes, no, or you're not sure. Give you all a few minutes or seconds to think about that one.
Okay, it looks like everyone's placed their bets, answered the question. All right.
And we will have time at the end. So maybe if people had some thoughts that didn't get fit into a category or want to expand, we can do that at the end of my presentation. Yeah. But looks like combined driving range made sense for 47%, did not make sense for 40%. So, and then 13% of you weren't sure. Okay, great. And then one more question. I'll let Adelina.
There we go.
That was quick. Would these now we're moving? I know you're now we're moving to the next column, charging speed. So would these charging rates be helpful if you were looking to buy an electric vehicle? Looking at the charging speed numbers. Yes, no, or not sure.
Giving it a couple more seconds. People are still trickling in answers.
Yeah, great.
Okay, I'm going to end the poll now. Share results.
Oh, so 83% said yes, that would be, those numbers would be helpful. Nobody said they weren't helpful, and then a few not sure. So that's great. That's helpful to see. Thank you. And like I said, maybe we can, when we open it up, if people want to expand on any thoughts on this label or window sticker, that'd be great. We can do that. So from there, I just want to kind of go to the next slide and talk about what we've heard so far. We've been doing having kind of similar questions and discussions in in-person meetings. So so far we've had two technical workshops about the amendments, and we've held 3 community-focused input sessions. So we had one input session virtually, which was the meeting, we were here at the evening community meeting back in May. And then we've had an in-person meeting. We had one in Brawley, down in Imperial Valley on September 11th. And then we had another in-person input session in Oxnard on September 26th. So for those meetings, we were fortunate to work with local community-based organizations, and we're thrilled to reach community members in each of these regions that we don't usually get a chance to talk to and get their perspectives on the types of questions we just asked you here tonight. So far, we've heard that people we get a variety of information through these meetings, but we have heard consistently that people would pay more money for a car that has less pollution. We've heard that as a theme. We've also heard that a lot of the community members are interested in buying a hybrid, but because electric vehicles, the infrastructure may not be built up in their area, so they're a little apprehensive about EVs, but hybrids are interesting to them. And they've also said the information on the window sticker should align with the extreme weather conditions that they're experiencing. So we may have had cold temperature on the window sticker, but we also have to think about the high temperatures that some people live in regularly, especially when we were in Imperial Valley. So that's some of the input we've heard so far, and we're still I guess if we go to the next slide, just really quick. We are still having input sessions, so we're here tonight. We're thank you to our colleagues in Mobile Source Control Division for giving us this space tonight to talk to you all. So we really appreciate being here. And then if we go to the, good, thank you. And then we have a couple input sessions coming up. We've got one next week on October 23rd in Oak Park here in Sacramento. And then we have one in the Stockton area on December 4th. And then we've got, we'll be doing another technical workshop in the next few months. The date is still being determined. We're still working that out. And then we have these input sessions and these workshops, but we're always open to talking to folks in your area. If you have a group or if you want us to come meet with your groups, we're happy to do that. Or if you want to meet with us, our door's always open for more input on all these topics. And then just quickly, next slide, please. Just wanted to give an overview of our timeline. So from this slide, you'll see a high-level overview of our schedule to go to the board for these amendments. So we're currently in the now more in the fall of 2024 part of the timeline, where we're meeting with community members and holding workshops. And then we will be releasing our draft proposal in the spring of 2025, and we'll be considering all the feedback that we've heard through the different workshops and input sessions throughout the summer and fall. And as we collect the feedback and draft our proposal, we're planning to present that to the board in late spring, early summer of 2025. And then next slide. Just want to say thank you all for your time this evening. We have links to sign up for our email lists, the subscription list, to get notifications about what's happening with these amendments. And then we're always eager to connect with you. So feel free to reach out to us at the cleancars@arb.ca.gov if you want to set up some time to talk about any of these proposals. And then we also have a link to the website if you just want to learn more. So happy to take some questions or thoughts. Maybe the polls spurred some ideas and you want to discuss before turning it over to Adelina.
I'm excited. I'm going to be at Oak Park.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I plan on
attending. To have you there.
Yeah. Oh, you got some questions.
Yeah. So should I just call on somebody?
Michael should.
Oh,
Michael
okay.
will be able to assist you with that.
So we'll now open the floor to questions, comments about this part of the presentation. To ask a question or make a comment on Zoom desktop, click Raise Hand under the Participants tab. On Zoom mobile, tap Raise Hand in the More tab. By phone, press 2 or to raise your hand. You can also email your question to the Clean Transportation Incentives at arb.ca.gov. This email address will be posted in the chat. Please include your name and affiliation, if any, with your question. Once your line is open, please unmute, state your name and affiliation, if any, before speaking. If you're emailing, our email monitor will notify us of your question. Looks like we have about 4 raised hands so far. So Mr. Brooks or Jonathan Brooks, you go ahead and unmute you first, and you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, I have a 2010 BMW, and the car is not really worth fixing, and I kind of wanted to donate it to the Cars for All program, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But the requirement was like it had to be a 2009.
Mm.
So
There are probably some folks who work on that program here. I'm gonna see if they might.
so should I just email them and
Yeah,
reach
so
out?
I don't know if someone from Clean Cars for All or about incentives is on here, but I'm sure we can just get maybe, yeah, we can just connect with you offline and see if, answer any questions specific to your situation.
Hey Lisa, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, hi Olivia. Yeah, great.
Hi. Yeah, why don't you leave your email and then we can follow up and see, which district you're in and which Clean Cars for All program you might be need to look into, and we can help you out because there is different year cutoffs depending on the district you're in, the air district you're in. So yeah, why don't you put your email in the chat or we can grab it and then we'll follow up with you offline.
Okay.
Jotham
Yeah.
Brooks, I will send his email to your team, Olivia. Does that sound like a plan?
Awesome. Yep, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Jotham.
Okay, Katie McCorman, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, Katie McCammon. I'm from 350 Sacramento. I'm program director with 350 Sacramento. I also live in Sacramento in Del Paso Heights.
Hi.
And I'm just here. I want to ask that CARB cut auto emissions from new gas-powered cars and light trucks, strengthen equity commitments, and ensure new standards apply as quickly as possible. So just showing up for the urgency of what you're already doing, and want to represent the over 2,500 people that we represent with our organization. Community health is a big aspect of what I'm talking about here today. It affects me personally. Del Paso Heights is one of the more polluted areas of Sacramento. And toxic air pollution from gas-powered vehicles, as you all know, harms people's health and disproportionately impacts low-income communities of color, low-wealth neighborhoods near congested freeways like mine, and diesel truck routes bear the largest brunt of cancer-causing vehicle exhaust. Also, millions of new gas-powered cars will be sold between now and 2035. So strengthening auto emission standards for these cars and light trucks will help protect the health of people living in those neighborhoods who are already overburdened by the pollution. And the equity element of this is the harmful environmental health and economic impacts of aging vehicles disproportionately also fall on Latino and Black Californians, lower income households like mine, and formerly redlined communities. ACC 2 included voluntary environmental justice incentives, but the board can do more to incentivize clean car technology in overburdened communities and for low-income customers. All incentive funding should be directed to low and moderate income Californians. So we ask that CARB must move quickly and ensure that new standards apply to model year 2027. Every year, CARB delays adopting and implementing the rule means significantly more climate harming emissions that the world and Californians can't afford. Automakers have had many years to make their vehicle fleets cleaner with proven cost-effective on-the-shelf technologies, and the auto industry must be held accountable. CARB should ensure new clean car standards apply as quickly as possible. Thank you for the work you're doing. Also, if you can drop those links, looks like you were going to meet with community organizers or community members in the Sacramento area on October 23rd.
Yeah.
If there's a registration for that,
Yeah.
I didn't see it in the chat.
Yeah, I can send it. After I get off right now, I'll put it in the chat. Like I'll have a second to go to the website. And I was gonna say, Katie, if you want to rally your community to come and join us for that meeting next week, we'd love to have you.
Okay, thank you so much, Lisa, and thank you all for doing the work you're doing.
Thank you, Katie.
For time's sake, Michael, I think we only have time for about one more. We will have time for more questions at the very end. So if there's something that didn't get answered or people didn't get to ask their question, we can always wait till the very end when we have a little bit more time. But go ahead and answer one more question.
All right, Adeline, I'll go ahead and call on John next. Go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, hello, everybody. This is John Yurton. I work for Aptiv Corporation. In your Title 13, there's a regulation 1962.3 that talks about the requirement in 2026 that all auto manufacturers have to supply charge cord sets and everything with every vehicle. I have just two questions on this. Number one, is that document finalized or is it still in some stages of it's final? Okay, that answered my first question. If my second question was going to be if it was not finalized, how do you get involved?
Yeah, it is. I can put a link to that regulation in the chat as well.
I have the regulation, so thank you.
All right. And if folks have questions, you can also maybe put them in the chat. I don't know, Adeline, if people want to do that, I can try to help answer, but I'll be here at the end too.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
The chat is disabled, but we do
sorry.
have it's okay. We do have our email that we drop in the chat for people to send direct email questions to though.
Okay.
So that's fine.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Thank you.
All right, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Adelina now.
Okay.
And next slide.
Okay. All right, so we did go over just a tiny bit. So we will return back at, let's say 5:50. Does that sound like a plan? Thank you. Just to clarify with folks, 5-minute break to go run and drink some water, bathroom break really quickly. Be back in 5 minutes. All right, welcome back everybody. Let's continue on with the rest of the presentation. We will now continue with the next part of the presentation with Stephanie Parent, Maggie Witt, and April Schmitz. All three have presentations for you all. They will give an overview of the workshop from August 29th regarding the fiscal year 2024-25 draft funding plan for the clean transportation incentives and upcoming funding opportunities. So go ahead and take it away, Steph.
Thanks, Adelina. Next slide, please. So as Adelina mentioned, I'm Stephanie Parent, and I am the lead staff over our funding plan development process each year. And so this slide provides some information about the funding plan and that development process. This year, due to a state budget deficit, CARB was given a small amount of funding. And so the focus of our discussion here is mostly about CARB staff's draft policy changes or recommendations for our incentive projects. And this is where we'd like to get comments and feedback from all of you. And I'm going to go off script just a little bit here to say that it's a little bit odd that we're presenting on a workshop that we held at the end of August. But we actually released our proposed funding plan to our webpage last Friday. And so staff is going to drop the link in the chat for where you can find that main document and all of the appendices. And we are in our formal public comment period on that for the next 30 days or so. It should close November 12th, I believe. And with that, we could go to the next slide. So this slide, and I didn't turn my own slides, apologies. One second. Okay, here I am. I found myself again. This slide looks at the historical appropriations for the clean transportation incentives over the past decade. And this year's appropriation builds on the approximately $6.1 billion that's been invested since 2013. For fiscal years 2021 and 22, as well as fiscal year 2022-23, those were the first 2 years of the zero emission vehicle package, or ZEV package. And that saw a large funding appropriations in those years. And so these were intended to serve as down payments with annual funding appropriations scaling down over the remaining years of the ZEV package. So that's why you see some differences in the funding over the years. Next slide, please. So while CARB has several funding sources for its incentive projects, today we're only going to focus on the Air Quality Improvement Program, which is also known as AQIP. And this funding source, we're focusing on that because it's the only CARB program that received funds for this fiscal year. So AQIP is the original funding program for clean transportation incentives, and it provides the framework for each annual funding plan. This year, the state budget included just under $35 million for AQIP, and legislation specifies that AQIP funds can only be used for projects that reduce criteria air pollutants in the heavy-duty sector. So that means it doesn't cover things like light-duty vehicles and e-bikes. Next slide, please. So as I noted on the previous slide, just under $35 million were appropriated for AQIP this year. That's to fund the criteria air pollutant projects in the logistics, goods movement, off-road, warehouse, and port sectors. So this year, of that allocation of $35 million, CARB staff proposes to allocate $5 million for the zero-emission truck loan assistance project and $14.97 million to the Innovative Small E-Fleet project, also known as ISEF, as well as $14.97 million to the Clean Off-Road Equipment, or CORE project. And we'll discuss these more in our medium and heavy duty portion today that April will talk about. So now we'll have time for some questions on this portion of the presentation, if there are any. So Michael, I'll hand it to you. Possible maybe Michael had to step away. So I could go ahead, if I don't know if I have the rights to unmute people.
Sorry, Stephanie, I had my headset off.
No worries.
So we'll now open the floor for questions and comments about this part of the presentation. To ask questions or make comments, on Zoom desktop, click the raise hand under the participants tab. On Zoom mobile, tap raise hand in the more tab. By phone, press 2 to raise your hand. You can also email your questions to Clean Transportation Incentives at arb.ca.gov. This email address will also be posted in the chat. Please include your name and affiliation, if any, with your question. Once your line is open, please unmute, state your name and affiliation, if any, before speaking. If you're emailing, our email monitor will notify us of your question. And looks like, I hope I'm saying your name right, Lala. Looks like you're first up, so I'll go ahead and unmute you. And you can go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, are you hearing me?
Yes, I can
Yes,
hear
we
you
can.
fine.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Michael.
I don't know if you know I am presenting a new technology. You hear me good now?
Yes.
Yes, because, okay, my computer also working, that's why I'm asking. So I am presenting new technology, and I am receiving many email from CARB and EPA and another different organizations which connected with EPA and CARB as well. And last time it was email, not only about zero emission vehicles, but also buildings. And CARB asked from me to send to them files regarding piezo materials, new technology, which related not only for ZEV, zero emission vehicles, but also for buildings. They sent to me many events that will be these days. I will be 23rd October in Sacramento. And I just want to know who will be from you so we can talk or I can provide some information.
Okay, let me see if I understood the question correctly. You'll be in Sacramento on October 23rd.
Yes.
And you'd like to talk to someone about zero emission vehicles as well as building related matters?
Yeah, if it is connected, if not only zero emission vehicles, because CARB wanted from me all files regarding zero emission vehicles and buildings. So I send about 8 files to them. And after I am receiving many emails where I can start representing them. So I am just asking what will be more properly. I don't want to just jump to presentation or what. It is 5-10 minutes. I just can introduce what it is I am presenting.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure who you emailed the files to. So we might have to connect with you after this meeting to connect you to the right people that you were emailing with. Like for example, all the people on this particular meeting this evening, I don't believe anybody is working on the building related aspects.
No, not buildings. It is not only zero emission vehicles for trucks, for different vehicles. It is also very dangerous pollutants. Yeah. PM 2.5 to PM 5, 2.10, and so on. So it is related to zero emission vehicles. So if not about buildings, maybe we can 5 minutes or so, I can introduce it.
We can follow up with you after the meeting. And I think we do have your email address through the registration information. Okay,
Yeah,
Lala?
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, next is Lynette. Go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Hi, my name is Lynette Sapienza. I'm with the Dome Partnership. I have a number of questions, but I'll start with 2 and we'll see where we go with the rest of the sections. As we look at the funding for next year, something that sticks out to us is small businesses rely heavily on light pickup trucks more than any other kind of vehicles. but funding eligibility for zero emission pickup trucks is basically absent from state funded programs. Is there a plan to support pickup truck replacement in these disadvantaged area communities, whether it's now or in the future?
Good question. I don't know if there's any staff that could address that.
If it's easier for me to put that in an email or any of these that you guys can't answer when we're done, so they could get to the right people, that's fine too.
We are
Real quick.
also going to have a couple more presentations
Right.
about light duty. So maybe there is someone online right now that can help answer the question.
Lilina, I can take this one, and I also think it might be worthwhile to follow up some because so our Clean Cars for All and EFMP program, for the EFMP program, there is limited funding available for the replacement of conventional pickup trucks. I think when it comes to Clean Cars for All, they would be eligible under that program as well, provided that they are advanced technology vehicles. For a short time, through the remainder of this year, probably another month or so, a conventional hybrid pickup truck would be eligible. But moving forward, it's a matter of technology availability when it comes to pickup trucks. For our Clean Cars for All program, they would be eligible like any other vehicle, provided that they were plug-in hybrid or better in the technology department. So
Even
go ahead.
even for small businesses, not individuals.
Okay, so that's the key. Small businesses, yeah, the Clean
Yeah.
Cars for All is for individuals.
Correct.
So I think it might be helpful to follow up with you online and kind of we can collect your comments and concerns. But yeah, the Clean Cars for All is for individuals.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then I will save the other ones for deeper into this, if that works better.
Sounds good, Lynette.
Okay.
We'll go ahead
Okay.
and answer one more question, Michael. But we
Okay.
are falling behind, so hopefully this is funding plan related to what we've covered so far. If not, you may want to hold on to your question until we do hit the light duty incentives and medium and heavy duty incentive portion of the presentation.
So yes, the next is Beverly. Go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Good evening. Beverly Deschaux. I'm with the Electric Vehicle Association of California Central Coast. And I have been doing EV educational events for 17 years now. We introduced EVs to our region. And I wanted to make a comment because I had my hand raised last time and didn't get called on. So this is relative to that. With regard to the sticker, the only thing that would be relevant with regard to the charging level would be if it doesn't have a level 3 charge. I think everything else has level 1 and level 2, and most have level 3 now. But it has to do with the charging infrastructure that you're plugging into, not the vehicle itself, unless it's not level 3 capable. So that would be relevant because I accidentally bought one that was not capable of level 3, and it was really a disadvantage. The other thing that I think would be very relevant to put on the sticker would be the miles per gallon equivalent. When I talk with somebody who has a pretend EV, pretend hybrid, which is a Prius that's not a plug-in, it's just a gas car, they say, oh yeah, no, I have a Prius and I get 40 miles per gallon. When they hear what the equivalent is for an EV, it's much more impressive. So my car gets 132 miles per gallon equivalent, and that is significant for people when they're considering that they're trying to help the environment and they're driving a car that has only 40 miles per gallon. So that would be a good thing to put on there. I also want to comment on the what you said to the man who called about the Clean Cars for All with the BMW. I'm really very pleased to hear that you may be negotiable. I remember being in the discussions about what would be the criteria. What would we say? What would we use for the criteria to decide which cars had priority? So the area that has the most pollution, the year of the car, the income of the person. So this man may not be able to afford to buy a new car unless he had the Clean Cars for All, and he might then go ahead and get that old car fixed and it would still be polluting. So I do hope that you are including those other things in deciding who gets to be part of the Clean Cars for All, that it's not just a black and white, okay, this is the year and that's it, because it's in the best interests of what we're trying to do, which is to improve the air quality of the state of California and the planet. And so I do hope that you are negotiable with people about that. And I'd like you to answer if you would be, so that I can, my county, my air district is not eligible until January, but I talk with people all the time and they want to know. So if somebody says to me, well, I have a 2010, so I probably can't qualify. And then they would go and buy another gas car that's a used gas car that's very polluting or something. So if you could answer if you are intending to be at least somewhat negotiable on the criteria for a car being turned into Clean Cars for All.
Yeah, I'll just thank you, Beverly, for your comments. And then I think if Olivia's still on the line about your question about Clean Cars for All, I'll let her or somebody answer that. But thanks and appreciate your input.
All right, so we'll go ahead and close the question and comments for now, and we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. If you have any questions.
Second, Michael, sorry. Was Olivia or Aaron?
It looks like Aaron was about to speak. Yeah.
No.
Thanks.
Yeah, I can speak to the Clean Cars for All, the model year cutoff question. So Beverly, the criteria for model year cutoff does vary by air district, and it's meant to meet one of our regulatory requirements, which is to target high. It's one of the methods for targeting high emitting vehicles. And so there's never been a hard and fast cutoff, and each district has their own criteria, somewhere around 2009 or before is generally, and it's generally adjusted as time goes on, because obviously as time goes on, vehicles become older. So it isn't so much that we have set an arbitrary cutoff for model year. It's districts have looked at the population of vehicles in their area and decided this is the metric by which they want to regulate the highest emitting vehicles. So we're always looking at various criteria in terms of balancing the equity impacts, the air quality impacts, in terms of like looking at what the overall criteria is, but each district does have some flexibility in determining specific some of the specific requirements for their programs. So it kind of clarifies how some of those things kind of came into play.
It looks like Beverly has a response for you, Aaron. Beverly.
I don't know if she can unmute herself because maybe my.
There we go. You have to do it. Yeah. Thank you. So one of the other criterion was the amount of miles on the car. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, one of the other criterion that we spoke about when we were deciding, when CARB was deciding and we were giving input from the community, was the amount of miles on the car. So that, and so if the car is a 2012, but it's got 250,000 miles on it and it's really polluting the air, I would hope that that would be taken into account. And I know that some air districts are worse, and the ones that already have the Clean Cars for All programs, I assume they were among the worst of the worst air pollution concerned districts, and ours is less, so it's not being in effect until January. But anyway, so I would hope that you would include things like that, amount of mileage.
That is also not one of the criteria. However, that does translate. One of the things that we do have to ensure air quality benefits is we do have some sort of, or we're required to do some sort of functionality tests. And the purpose of this test is to basically ensure that, like, if we don't scrap this vehicle would otherwise be driving around on the road, heavily polluting. So there are several provisions that are written into our statute, into our regulations, that are designed to ensure that we're getting air quality benefits from the vehicles that we do pull into the program.
Good, thank you.
Right, let's just jump right into the next slide, and we'll have Maggie present on light duty vehicle purchase incentives.
That's right. Thank you, Adelina. Hi, everyone. My name is Maggie Witt, and in this portion of today's meeting, I'll provide updates on the light duty vehicle purchase incentive projects. And I'll also quickly touch on the sustainable community-based transportation equity projects. Next slide, please. So first, let's begin with CARB's light duty purchase incentives. So in general, these projects focus on helping individuals, households, and communities both purchase zero-emission vehicles and transition to more sustainable modes. And at our first funding plan workshop in June, we provided an overview of each of these projects. But today, my remarks are going to focus on the 4 programs that are included in the draft and also the newly posted proposed funding plan. And those are the Driving Clean Assistance Program, Clean Cars for All, the Zero Emission Assurance Project, and the California E-Bike Incentive Project. Next slide, please. All right, first up, the Driving Clean Assistance Program, or DCAP. For fiscal year 2024-25, no funds have been appropriated. However, the project still has funds from prior year allocations. Additionally, there will be a proposed allocation for the future that I'll discuss on the next slide. DCAP is available in accepting applications for residents living in Imperial, Mojave Desert, Eastern Kern, and Antelope Valley Air Districts right now, and it will continue to roll out in other parts of the state through the first quarter of 2025. DCAP remains committed to a needs-based approach throughout all phases of its launch. As noted in the DCAP and proposed funding plans, the draft and proposed funding plans, staff proposes a project criteria change that will increase the previous financing loan cap from $30,000 to $45,000. This change was made in response to stakeholder feedback and market analysis, and it would enable further opportunities for participants to fund vehicles. While the loan cap would increase with this proposed change, the interest rate for those loans would remain capped at 8%. Next slide, please. All right, next, let's talk about Regional Clean Cars for All program, or CC4A. So 5 air districts manage CC4A, which helps lower income drivers replace their older, high-polluting cars with zero or near zero emission vehicles. Although no new funds are allocated for CC4A for fiscal year 24-25, there are still funds from previous years. CARB can reallocate funds, so $14 million has been shifted from DCAP to the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District to maintain funding through fiscal year 23-24. There are no changes to project criteria, but CARB is updating the program based on last year's funding plan to include zero-emission motorcycles and increase incentives and adaptive equipment when it's needed. CARB is also proposing an updated funding allocation, which is found in the proposed funding plan. CARB hosted a public work group last month on September 10th to collect input, and a recap of that meeting is going to be provided at a future evening community meeting. Lastly, efforts to identify underserved populations will be included in the Assembly Bill 630 Goal Setting Report, which is an appendix to the proposed funding plan. Next slide, please. Now let's transition to talk about the Zero Emission Assurance Project, or ZAP. ZAP was established by Assembly Bill, or AB 193, to help reduce the risk of buying a used zero-emission vehicle or near zero-emission vehicle, a vehicle that's like a plug-in hybrid or a conventional hybrid vehicle. Specifically, the project would provide a rebate for the replacement battery or fuel cell components for these vehicles. Repair costs are a significant barrier to obtaining a zero or near zero emission vehicle for lower income Californians. So ZAP complements CARB's light duty vehicle purchase incentive programs by alleviating low income residents' concerns about premature battery degradation, which can cause reduced vehicle performance, vehicle depreciation, and costly repairs. Next slide, please. So CARB staff initial thinking for ZAP eligibility includes that participants must have taken part in district or CARB CC4A programs or financing assistance pilot programs or the upcoming driving clean assistance program. They must also have continuously owned their vehicle since buying it through a CARB incentive program. AB 193 limits ZAP incentives to one per vehicle and introduces new income limits that differ from CARB's usual thresholds. CARB's historical income limits were based on 400% of the federal poverty level, but have recently changed to 300%. We aim to align ZAP income limits with CARB's existing programs to simplify the process for applicants. And we're currently reviewing the differences and will update you in the next work group meeting. Next slide, please. Still talking about ZAP, given that most manufacturer warranties cover 10 years and up to 100,000 miles, and that ZAP covers used vehicles, providing an extended warranty period of up to 15 years or 200,000 miles, should be more than enough to cover project participants' needs. Also, research shows that many batteries, including those in hybrids and electric vehicles, can last up to 300,000 miles with proper care. So staff is considering ZAP incentives of up to $7,500 to cover premature battery or fuel cell failures, including labor, based on the average replacement costs and aligning with the DCAP grants. If repair costs exceed this amount, participants can choose to replace their vehicle instead. This replacement incentive can be combined with local or federal programs, but not with other CARB purchase incentives. Lastly, instead of scrapping older zero-emission vehicles, CARB is considering donating them to community colleges for use in automotive technician training programs. Next slide, please. Okay, great. So now let's shift our focus to the California e-bike incentive project. That project will provide incentives up to $2,000 to low-income Californians, 18 years or older, towards the purchase of electric bicycles, or e-bikes. First, $31 million has been allocated and $13 million is currently in the grant with the administrator Pedal Ahead. Once the project launches, eligible applicants can receive a base voucher of $1,750 towards the purchase of an e-bike and accessories. such as locks, helmets, safety equipment, and assembly and delivery. Furthermore, those who have a household income at or below 225% of the federal poverty level or living in a disadvantaged and low-income community are eligible for an additional $250. That brings the maximum incentive amount to $2,000. CARB also has a $5 million set aside for priority applicants to ensure that they will have increased access to e-bikes. Funds are also available for community-based organizations to help with outreach and education to community residents. Eligible e-bikes include Class 1, 2, and 3 bikes and require underwriter laboratories or European standard certifications for battery safety. Both brick and mortar and online purchases are eligible through approved retailers that meet the program requirements. Next slide, please. All right, now that we've covered some of the nuts and bolts of the e-bike project, let's talk about the soft launch, which is currently underway in collaboration with 4 communities. A key element of the soft launch has been its emphasis on providing robust outreach to residents through partnering with local community-based organizations and providing application assistance and testing all our systems ahead of the statewide launch. Some lessons learned from the soft launch include the following. First, the need for improved education and outreach to ensure retailers and applicants are familiar with the project requirements. Second, we have simplified the incentive structure to make the purchases easier at the point of sale. And third, we've expanded the list of eligible accessories, which will help with e-bike safety and functionality. Overall, we expect to continue working through issues raised during the soft launch so that we are ready ready for a full statewide launch later this year. So please make sure to visit our website for more information and sign up for the mailing list for the official statewide launch announcement. Next slide. All right. Now I'm going to shift gears once again to briefly talk about the sustainable community-based transportation equity projects. So these 5 projects, which are shown on the slide, provide funding for the planning and implementation of clean mobility solutions that support community transportation needs and help folks get around without owning a car. The projects in this portfolio include statewide clean mobility options vouchers, or CMO, regional clean mobility pilots, planning and capacity building grants, clean mobility in schools grants, and the Sustainable Transportation Equity Project, or STEP grants. For this fiscal year, these projects have not been allocated funding, and CARB staff are not proposing any policy changes or updates. Excuse me. Nevertheless, several efforts within these projects are underway or will be launching later this year. And one effort that's launching soon is related to the planning and capacity building project. Next slide, please. So speaking of which, for the planning and capacity building project, $7.3 million from a prior year funding allocation will be available soon to fund at least 15 community-led planning and capacity building efforts. This funding opportunity is for community-based organizations, local governments, and tribal governments to work with community members to plan for clean and active transportation options. Figuring out what community transportation needs are, setting up workforce training development programs, and much more. The final request for applications is expected in early 2025, but we are drafting materials right now based on public comment. And a public work group is currently scheduled for October 30th to get ideas on how we can shape the application and eligibility requirements to best support communities that need the funding the most. We'll also take ideas, share updates, and provide reminders in future community evening community meetings. And just so you know, I saw hot off the press earlier today, the announcement for this public work group went out today through our GovDelivery notification system and listserv. So hopefully if you were signed up, you saw that. And so that's all for the light duty vehicle purchase incentive projects and the sustainable community-based transportation equity projects. Handing it back over to Michael for the Q&A. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Maggie. So now again, we'll open the floor for questions and comments about this part of the presentation. To ask a question or make a comment, on the Zoom desktop, click the Raise Hand under the Participants tab. On Zoom Mobile, tap the Raise Hand in the More tab. By phone, press 2 to raise your hand. You can also email your question to the Clean Transportation Incentives at arb.ca.gov. This email address will also be posted in the chat. Please include your name and affiliation, if any, with your question. Once your line is open, please unmute, state your name and affiliation, if any, before speaking. If you're emailing, our email monitor will notify us of your question. Go ahead and give it a few minutes for people to go ahead and click that button. It looks like Beverly is first up. Go ahead and speak, Beverly. I've unmuted your mic.
Hi again, Beverly Deschaux with the Electric Vehicle Association, California Central Coast. I just want to say I've really like that you are thinking of giving the turned-in cars to community colleges. That's an idea that I had long ago. There's some group who charges people $20,000 for a program to make. It has instructions to make an electric vehicle, and it doesn't make a real vehicle. It's just like a structure, you know, just yeah, it's just a structure. It's not really a whole vehicle. So if the intention of your donating them is to have them convert the vehicles from gas to electric, that's an awesome idea to give. I mean, so many vehicles could be saved, perhaps, instead of just completely being crushed if they were converted. And that's how we started out. That's what we originally had years ago, was just conversions. We didn't have the major manufacturers making EVs. So that would be great. Thank you.
Let's take questions off for wash time. Thanks so much for your comment, Beverly.
Like we have two more here. One more. B, let me go ahead and
Hi.
ask your question.
Yeah, hi. My name is B. Mittermiller. I'm with San Diego 350. And when you were talking about the Pedal Ahead program, it reminded me that Pedal Ahead in San Diego was rolled out, I think it was last year, maybe even sooner. But anyway, there was a big fanfare about it, and it looked like it was going to be a great success. And then recently we found out that the bicycle vendor was cheating on the program and made out with more money than he deserved. And so I'm just bringing this up to ask if you will be checking with these programs and auditing them, basically, to make sure that money is going where it's supposed to go and not to people who are just trying to take advantage of the system. And not only for e-bikes, but for any of these programs that, you know, you're working really hard to make sure that the money gets to the right people. And I would hate to see that effort sidetracked. Thank you.
Hi, this is Sam Grader. I'm manager overseeing that program. Our grants, all of our grants have in place quality control and financial, the ability to look at financial records at any time. And we've been doing that with Pedal Ahead and continue to do so. And we hope to launch soon. But thank you for your comment. We understand your concern.
Thank you.
Beverly, do you have another question?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Beverly.
Yeah. You have to unmute me.
I believe you already unmuted, Beverly.
Can hear you.
I'm unmuted?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't have this point written down, but it was something I meant to ask or comment on. And that is in some of the other criteria that CARB is giving funding for, the non-plug-in hybrids have been eliminated. It's only plug-in hybrids because they're the only ones that could actually run on electric part of the time, the amount of miles that they have on fully electric. And that's why we, as the industry, promoted having those so that vehicles can drive around town on all electric. And when they need to go long distance, then they have a gas car. But these other ones are just gas cars with a little electric motor that gives them a little bit better mileage, but they're a gas car. And I don't think they should continue to be funded. The battery replacement thing, no, they shouldn't even be in on it. In any funding from CARB. They're done. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Beverly. I don't know, Michael or Raquel, if you have any comments about the ZAP program and if that has any relevance to Beverly's comment.
When it comes to the cars themselves, yes, they're going to be donated back to the institutions for the students to go ahead and take apart. And then when they do that, they'll be able to help learn. Right now, it doesn't really go into for, just say, making a kind of turning a gasoline vehicle into a electric vehicle, though that is what happens with a lot of the EV batteries that have been going out of some vehicles, at least when one set goes bad. You're aware of some of that. But right now, we don't have any plans to incentivize that area of the market. So, and also there is a lot of eyes on to make sure there is no, what we call a misuse of funds. So we do have something set for that as well. And thank you for your comment.
Yeah, I'm going to chime in here real quick too. This is Raquel Cardenas, manager over GCAP and ZAP here at CARB. With regards to your comments about plug-in hybrids and conventional hybrids, yes, we phased out funding for conventional hybrids in the process of doing that for our programs, and still plan on funding plug-in hybrids, pure battery electric and fuel cell electric vehicles. Particularly the plug-in hybrids provide an option for many folks throughout California, especially those in rural areas that may not have as close access to charging. And so that plug-in hybrid allows them to operate on electric, but also gives them the ability to move around without that range anxiety. And so for the foreseeable future, we'll continue funding those, but we do appreciate your comment and we'll continue to analyze the market and the available technology as we continue to implement this program. So thank you again, Beverly, for your comments.
Well, thank you.
All right, we do have to continue to move forward. It doesn't look like we have any more questions anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce April presenting on medium and heavy duty vehicle and on and off-road equipment investments.
Hi, Adelina. Thank you. My name is April. I'm the lead over the medium and heavy duty vehicle on and road and off-road investment chapter within the funding plan. And I'll be giving an overview of some of our heavy duty programs, their allocations, and proposed changes. Next slide, please. Overall, our medium and heavy duty and off-road equipment investments strive to continue to support regulatory efforts and build on efforts to ensure investment support our equity goals. We also strive to strategically focus on priority populations by expanding support for small businesses and disadvantaged communities, focus on reducing barriers for small fleets by expanding support through non-financial mechanisms, and collaborate with other state agencies to ensure reduction of air pollutants emitted from medium and heavy duty on and off-road equipment to ultimately emit no harmful air pollutants. Next slide, please. Previously, our heavy-duty incentives focused on bringing cleaner technologies to the market. Today, with robust zero-emission options now available on the market, incentives have shifted to support small fleets and businesses that need financial assistance the most, while also continuing to support technology advancement in some of the most challenging sectors, such as off-road equipment and agriculture. All of the projects you see here include support for small fleets and businesses with zero-emission truck loan pilot and the innovative small e-fleet designed specifically to meet small fleets' unique needs. As HVIP enters its 14th year, the project continues to adapt to changing needs. This year, HVIP continues strengthening its focus on supporting underserved fleets. Roughly 750 small fleets participated in HVIP in the last year. That is up 15% from the previous year. As of this month, HVIP has $125 million available. There will be no additional funding allocations to HVIP for fiscal year 24-25 due to the limited funding available in the budget and needs in other projects. HVIP funds are expected to be exhausted by late 2024 or early 2025. Over the program's life, more than 12,000 vehicles have been funded, with almost 2,000 fleets participating. This year, we are proposing a review of voucher amounts, such as increasing the incentive amounts for zero-emission conversions from 50% to 75% of a zero-emission truck voucher. In addition, we are evaluating the potential introduction of a manufacturer's suggested retail price, or MSRP cap. Staff has conducted an analysis on Class 8 vehicles and found that the European Union cost for trucks is lower than the United States. We will expand this study to all truck classes and develop a recommendation for next year's funding plan. Also, CARB will explore a potential revamp of the voucher process where fleets may be given a redemption certificate they could use to shop for a vehicle that meets their needs. There are additional changes to the HVIP reflected in the final proposed funding plan that was posted to our website October 11th that were not covered on this slide. We encourage you to review the proposed funding plan in its entirety. Next slide, please. The Innovative Small E-Fleet Pilot Project, or ISEF for short, offers vouchers for small fleets to access zero-emission technologies. ISEF encourages innovative options such as all-inclusive leases, peer-to-peer truck sharing, as-a-service models, and other mechanisms. As of October, there is approximately $24 million available in ISEF. The current proposal for this year's funding plan is to allocate an additional $14.97 million of the AQIP appropriation to continue to support innovative projects for small fleets. Over the last year, staff has explored new solutions to barriers small fleets face when adopting zero-emission technology, such as access to insurance for heavy-duty ZEVs and how to potentially provide advanced fleet management services for when an entity incorporates a zero-emission vehicle into their fleet. In addition, staff is proposing to begin exploring the design of a used truck voucher concept for the fiscal year 24-25. The proposal would leverage and build upon the broad portfolio of creative, innovative solutions already within ISEF. Next slide, please. Our California Off-Road Equipment Project, or CORE, is intended to accelerate the deployment of advanced zero-emission technology in the off-road sector by providing a streamlined way for fleets to access funding, which will help offset the incremental cost of advanced zero-emission technology, such as forklifts, transport refrigeration units, and construction and agricultural equipment. CORE targets commercial-ready products which have not yet achieved a significant market foothold. Staff recommend that CORE receive $14.9 million in AQIP funds. We plan on using those funds for small businesses and public entities. Staff is proposing to conclude incentives for the mature zero-emission off-road terminal tractors used at freight facilities. In the future, as terminal tractors with gross combined weight ratings greater than 81,000 pounds become available, we would evaluate CORE incentives eligibility and support future CARB cargo handling equipment regulatory requirements. In lieu of the zero-emission off-road certification, CORE plans to streamline and strengthen the CORE equipment eligibility process. Next slide, please. The zero-emission truck loan pilot program opened in May of this year and was allocated $5 million in fiscal year 22-23 funding plan. Staff has also identified and transferred about $4 million in unused truck loan program funds to augment the program. Staff is recommending a $5 million allocation from AQIP this year. We estimate that this amount will support approximately 200 to 300 additional loans, depending on the financed amount. The program is open to small fleets of 20 vehicles or less. It includes all Class 2B and greater new or used on-road zero-emission vehicles with a gross vehicle weight rating over 8,500 pounds. To apply, an individual small fleet should contact a participating lender. The lender submits the required paperwork directly to the administrator. With these funds available, lenders are better equipped to lend to businesses that need a little extra assistance and typically offer more favorable terms than the business would otherwise qualify for. CARB is also working closely with the Energy Commission to align an accompanying infrastructure loan support program. And Southern California Edison has funded a similar loan support program for customers in its service territory. And lastly, before I hand it back to Stephanie, I just want to remind everyone that the information shared today for the heavy duty projects is based off of the draft funding plan, which was released in August of this year. However, more detailed information has been provided in the proposed funding plan that was posted on our website last Friday, October 9th, and I believe the link was dropped in the chat. So we encourage you to review the proposed funding plan in its entirety before making any comments. I'll hand it back over to you, Steph.
Thanks, April. So next slide, please. I just want to remind everyone or let you know that we do have an open door policy, especially for those that are most affected by our incentive projects. And we encourage you to contact us for one-on-one discussions about your concerns and solutions or potential solutions. You can use the team email address that's shown on the slide, cleantransportationincentives@arb.ca.gov, and that'll be shared in the chat. Thanks for collaborating with us just throughout the funding plan development process. And to stay up to date, please subscribe to our listserv, and the link for that will also be provided in the chat. So now I'll hand things back to Michael for another Q&A session. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephanie. So now we'll go ahead and open the floor for questions and comments about this part of the presentation. To ask a question or make a comment, on Zoom desktop, click Raise Hand under the Participants tab. On Zoom mobile, tap Raise Hand in the More tab. By phone, press 2 to raise your hand. You can also email your questions to the Clean Transportation Incentives at arb.ca.gov. This email address is also being posted in the chat. Please include your name and affiliation, if any, with your question. Once your line is open, please unmute, state your name and affiliation, if any, before speaking. If you're emailing, our email monitor will notify us of your question. All right, going over to the open lines here. Looks like we have John first. Go ahead and unmute you now. Go ahead and ask your question, John.
Hey, hello again. This is John Yurton with Aptiv Corporation. And I'm not sure this is an appropriate question for this session, but there are a number of standards organizations that are working on megawatt charging systems. Is CARB involved in any regulations with respect to megawatt charging?
This is Lisa. I'm not sure if we don't have any of those regulations, but maybe we can follow up afterward to talk more about your question.
You probably answered my question, because if there were, I think you probably would have been aware. And
are you talking? Okay, are you talking what in regards to? Can you repeat your question real quick? Sorry.
I'll do an email.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, I don't think we do offer any of what he's looking for. Maybe CEC may have something with their infrastructure incentives or programs or projects, but I don't think any of us have any more information on that.
Yeah, that is definitely a CAC for infrastructure question. So you really want to talk to the California Energy Commission.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, John. All right, Lynette is up next. Go ahead and unmute you now, and you can go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Lynette Sapienza with Dome Partnership. A few questions around small and medium-sized businesses and the programs that are being funded. Is there going to be any consideration made to streamline the applications and reporting processes for small businesses? In addition to that, will there, some of these small businesses struggle with things like scrappage that are in some of the programs? Can you comment on either one of those? And then I have a few more questions too.
Would anyone like to address the question from Heavy Duty?
Hi, Lynette. This is April. I don't specifically work on the program that I'm about to refer to, but we have something called CalFleet Advisor that helps small fleets like navigate the application process, but not necessarily streamlining reporting in any manner.
Okay. And the reason I ask that is sometimes that's a barrier for some of these businesses because they're very, very small. If it says Michael and Son, it might be Michael and his son or whatever. And it's hard for them to apply for some of these with the reporting and the process requirements. So that's why I was asking. And there's so many of those businesses out there. So they are a big piece of what can help if we can get them electrified. Same kind of around the scrappage. Are we looking at anything to change some of the program requirements there to make it a little easier for some of these small and medium-sized businesses?
Hello, Annette. Thanks for your question. This is Yang Trin. I'm the manager overseeing two of the incentive projects that April went over, HVIP and CORE. So if you're referring to those programs, so if you are, as far as these HVIP, as April was talking about, is for on-road, medium, and heavy-duty trucks. There is no scrappage requirement. It's a voucher program. It's first come, first serve, and for CORE, that's the off-road kind of counterpart, which is good. It's similar type of program for off-road type equipment. There's no scrappage requirements for either of those projects.
Right.
Okay, so was that help with that
But,
question?
but in some of the other programs that fall under like the Carl
Moyer
Moyer,
does require, yeah, I'm not
we
in Moyer.
still have
Right,
some of
that's
that.
right. That is a legislative statutory requirement. So there's can't get around that part. And then as far as for processing or just additional assistance, I think April hit it on the head there. Like CalFleet Advisor is a group that has a really concierge service for small fleets to help them with questions, contacts. I mean, because to transition them from combustion ICE engines over to ZES, we recognize it's not something that is just there's a change there that you'll need infrastructure. You need to understand how that solution works. So that is a resource that's available. As far as for processing, it sounds like your question is about some other types of maybe district application process that's maybe not applicable to what you're, at least for my projects, HVIP and core. But if you have other questions, feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah, I think those are it. We'll probably email some other ones in. Thank you.
Go ahead, Michael. We still have a couple more questions.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and go with the next one. Becky, you're up. So I'll go ahead and unmute you now, and you can go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, hi. I work with the city of East Palo Alto, and we're interested in potentially purchasing like a electric street sweeper. And so we were wondering what grant you would recommend we apply to for something like that.
Does anybody have a response from our team?
Young, is that something in the HVIP catalog?
That's a good question. So street sweeper, so this is for a public fleet?
Yeah, this would be for the city to use, our staff to use.
Okay. Let's see. I don't have the catalog off the top of my head, but street sweeper. I have to get back to you on that one to check if that's something that's eligible and core in the HVIP category.
Young, I did check this. We got this email or this question over email earlier. We just couldn't get to it. So we did check with the rest of the HVIP team, and we currently don't have any street sweepers on the HVIP catalog. Although I think it used to be in the past, but it doesn't longer exist in the HVIP catalog.
Sure. Okay, so I think, and thanks, Jessica, for that. So Becky, I think what I can share then is like, so for HVIP, manufacturers need to submit an application for eligibility. So if there's specific applications that you have, you can work with those manufacturers to encourage them to apply. So that team would include Jessica and I forgot the website, but we can drop that in the chat too. I think it's info@hvip. I forget if it's HVIP California or hvip.org, but we can drop that link in the chat for you.
I will drop it in just a second.
Thanks, team. Appreciate it. We have one more question. We have 2 more minutes. So Woody Hastings, if you think you can answer the question quickly, ask the question quickly, then let's go ahead.
Yeah, it's
not really a question. I just Woody Hastings here with the Climate Center. I'm based in Sonoma County, assuming you can hear me. And I just wanted to. I was here earlier. I had to duck out, so my comments are more broad. It's not really a question. Just to be really brief, the top line here. And Katie McCammon from 350 Sacramento touched on a number of things, so I can be real short. I'm just here today to urge the Air Resources Board to protect our climate and the overburdened communities from auto pollution, strengthening equity commitments, cutting emissions from new gas-powered cars and light trucks, and ensuring that the new standards apply as early as possible, no later than model year 2027. And so, it's really those things. We're experiencing the consequences of the climate crisis, as you know well, hottest days ever recorded globally on July 22nd, 2024. So we need to cut auto emissions this last round of gas-powered cars between now and 2035. So thanks very much for all the work you're doing, and I'll just cut it short, leave it there. Thanks so much for staying open late. Take care.
Thanks so much, Woody. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Can we go to the next slide, please? All right. Sorry, took me a minute. Had to find my slides again. I just want to thank everybody again for your questions, comments, and the collaboration. Sorry, we are like pushing it right to the 7 p.m. mark, but we really do appreciate everybody's feedback, comments, questions. We're here for it, so thank you so much. Next slide, please. I just have a couple of items to cover really quick. So our evening community meetings are held every third Tuesday of the month. So you are always more than welcome to register for these. It does exclude June to state budget being finalized and November for the funding plan being presented to the board. So we may have to like shift things around every now and then, but we do try to keep consistent. Our next evening community meeting will be December 17th. We will be taking things to the board next month. Just to point out that the proposed funding plan was posted to the web on October 11th and is still open for public comment. We can drop that link in the chat. And today, no meeting in November. December 17th, we got that. And I think that is it for now. Next slide, please. All right. Just wanted to drop some further information on our contact information. Again, I'm Adelina Paez. My counterpart, Jessica Monterosa, she also helps a lot with funding plan, and she will be taking over facilitating presentations in January. And our lead staff on the funding plan is Stephanie Parent, and you can also email our team at the Clean Transportation Incentives at arb.ca.gov. And thank you to everyone for sticking with us through the entirety of the presentation. And I hope to see everybody next month. Have a good evening.
Hey, Adelina, before you end it, can we plug Moyer really quick? So I know this isn't a Moyer meeting, but Moyer is taking guideline updates to the board on the 24th of this month. So I know there were a couple Moyer comments. This isn't the Moyer forum, but if you do want to get your comments in, it looks like Jessica just dropped the link for that information in the chat. I just wanted to plug that really quick before we hopped off. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Would anyone else within CARB like to add anything to the chat? I know we had a lot going on. The presentation that Lisa had, we did drop the link for that event, and then also Violet with the October 30th event about the planning and capacity building workshop. So anything else? Last call. All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thank you and good night.
Good night, John.
Thank you.